webinar dedicated to cybersecurity in manufacturing, where we'll explore the crucial importance of security for information technology, meaning IT, as well as operational technology, OT. So first and foremost, let's do a bit of housekeeping. First of all, what you have to know is that this webinar will be recorded and available through the Lux Innovation YouTube channel at the end of the event. Then about the usage of the interface, you'll find on the right of your screen some tabs. The first one is about chatting, basically presenting yourself or giving a bit of information about you. Then perhaps the most important tab is the one where you'll be able to ask your question to our dear speakers. Perhaps a bit of innovation this year. We will put together all the questions and we will address them to the speakers at the end of the session during a bit of a panel, let's say. And last tab is about the polls. Sorry for the tabs. I do not recommend you to click on the profile of our speaker in the information tab, because it will make you exit the interface, which could be a little bit disadvantage. So, yeah, technology is the question, is the answer, sorry, but what was the question? In a world where digital transformation is redefining industrial processes, cybersecurity is becoming an essential pillar for guaranteeing not only data protection, but also the continuity and security of physical operations. In 2023, the manufacturing sector was the target of 20% of all cyber extortion campaigns, making it the industry most affected by this type of attack. Secondly, almost 1 in 2 attacks against the manufacturing industry were caused by unpatched vulnerabilities. That underlines the need to prioritize vulnerability management to avoid costly and disruptive incidents. These figures highlight the imperative need to strengthen your defense against cyber threats. Today, we're going to find out how manufacturing companies can integrate robust cybersecurity measures to protect their digital and physical assets. So, without further ado, let's welcome our first speaker, who is Dominique Coguet. Dominique, with more of 10 years of cybersecurity experience, leads the National Cybersecurity Competence Center, called NC3, enhancing cybersecurity in Europe and supporting multiple types of organizations with adapted solutions. One more thing to mention is that NC3 is part of the L-DIH consortium, and they bring their services and experience to this consortium. Dominique, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Nicolas, for the introduction. So I'm Dominique Coguet. I'm the head of the NC3, the National Cybersecurity Competence Center in Luxembourg. As mentioned, we are part of the L-DIH consortium. So the objective of my presentation today is to really present who we are, what are the services that we provide through the consortiums, and give a bit of threat intros on the landscape on cybersecurity incidents that occurred the past months within the manufacturing sector, and also share some best practice at the end regarding how you can secure your infrastructure or your systems. So the NC3, the National Cybersecurity Competence Center, is one of the entities within the LAC. LAC is the Luxembourg House of Cybersecurity. as the word says, the House of Cybersecurity. We focus on the ecosystem. We are mandated by the Ministry of Economy. So within the center, we have two entities. We have the circle that do incident response, meaning respond to incident. We are more focused on the prevention side, with a keen on developing competence building capacity. We also do research to understand the needs on the ecosystem, within the ecosystem, and try to provide solutions to that. We have various tools on the market that are open source. Some of our services are also open source and free to the ecosystem, really to strengthen the cybersecurity ecosystem and the maturity, especially for SMEs and municipality in Luxembourg. Okay. And we are a member of the ECCC, that is the European Cybersecurity Competence Centers, meaning that we are part of the network or the community of cybersecurity community in Europe. That gives us a very edge in collaborating with at the European level in terms of tool expertise, meaning that the type of service that we provide here in Luxembourg can be also shared with some European country or entities, and the same way they can also share some tools. If you have service that you are looking for that we don't find in Luxembourg, we can act as a proxy to get some, if there's such expertise exists in some other countries. We can mediate that kind of interaction as well. So really, the NC3, our mission is to foster the cybersecurity ecosystem in Luxembourg with a focus on competence and capacity building. And we understand that cybersecurity, the economy of cybersecurity, meaning that bringing to Luxembourg companies that can provide cybersecurity services, cybersecurity solutions to the ecosystem, really to improve the maturity of the ecosystem. So we have various services coming across competence building, research, and the animation of the ecosystem. So within the L-DIH consortium, we handle service around cybersecurity assessment. And this is why, that's a question that some will ask. We are all in this industrial area that we talk Industry 4.0, that we have all connected and smart devices. And these devices, they need to be secure. When we're talking about digitalizations, we're talking about IoT devices, smart grids. So we need to talk about security to know that they are connected, and to some point we are connected to the internet. And how do you secure that? What is the controls that you put in place to ensure the security of your infrastructure? And that's where the service that we provide through the L-DIH consortiums are very important and crucial to the security of your infrastructure. Understanding that once we move to the traditional industry and you move to more smart way of industrializations, we need to consider security. That's why we talk about security by design or privacy by design, because at the point we're collecting personal data, and with the venue of NIS2 that is coming, that some of the industry or manufacturing company will be concerned, meaning that we need to put controls or to understand what are the controls that we need to put in place and the obligations that we need to observe. Reporting incidents, for example, is either you are directly connected, you are an important entity, or you are a service provider to an important or critical infrastructure. Meaning that though you are a service provider, once you have an incident, you have an obligation, for example, to inform either the critical entity that you are providing service to, or to inform the regulator that you are facing this kind of incident. So understanding this is a very key in this new world of industrialization that we have. And to give a brief trade landscape, crossing over this year only, we have a manufacturing company in Belgium nearby that was also hit by a cyber attack, and that obliged them to cease their service for at least 10 days. We know the case that happened April and January this year in Texas regarding the water pipeline that was also hacked. And the same case come across different countries. Spain also experienced a manufacturing entity in Spain also experienced a cyber attack. The same for Russia. The cyber warfare is really not only on financial institutions anymore. Once we are talking about digitalizations and we are connected, is also the focus is not also targeting manufacturing company, critical infrastructures. So we need to understand and to have the culture of putting security controls in place, not on the IT, only on the IT infrastructure, but on the OT infrastructure. We understand the challenge that some of the manufacturing company are facing. Legacy system, how do you secure them? Your PLC systems, your SCADA system. Some of them, because they've been there for some times, we don't have, even the manufacturer didn't think of security when they were designing it. Now, how do you do it? Do you put a layer of security on top of that to secure your infrastructure? Those kind of reflections, that's what we need to cultivate really through our services that we provide through the L-DIH consortium. Again, I would like to mention that the services that we provide through the consortiums are free. We provide these services for free, so you can really reach out to us. And if you want to have just simple assessment, we can really support you in getting those assessments. So as I mentioned, yes, why are we talking about security of your infrastructure? You need to protect your assets. There's compliance obligations with the NIS2 directive that is coming to force. So some manufacturing company will be targeted. For example, the case of the manufacturing company that went out of business for 10 days, there's financial loss implications. There's reputation for some of them. When we are talking about the food industry, a cyber attack that can increase the level of dosage that you put in the food or in the processing stuff, and that can impact the populations. So there's a reputation for manufacturing company in that directions. So those aspects of why we're talking about OT security is very important to take in consideration. That is your business at risk, is the people that you provide service to also at risk, and is your financial situation and your reputations. So once we move to the Industry 4.0, start introducing IoT devices, smart grids, smart devices in linear infrastructure or in manufacturing pipelines, we need to start thinking of security by design, privacy by design, the implication when you have ransomware and you have data breach. Again, we have implication where you need to report to the CNPD, and those kind of some of you can have critical informations about people, and then those informations, when they get lost, the nature can be very destroy the reputation of these individuals. So we need to take that in considerations and have security and privacy by design while we are either going through a digitalization process or introducing some IoT devices within our infrastructure. Okay. So within the L-DIH consortium, the service that we provide two services. We have one that we call the light cybersecurity assessment, and the second is the in-depth cybersecurity assessment. The light cybersecurity assessment is a series of questions and controls. They are based on the ISO and the control that focus on really on the manufacturing sector. And we ask, once we want our service, we come to your site. We try to visit your operation infrastructure, and then we have a series of questions, discussion to understand what kind of infrastructure you have in place, what kind of controls you put in place, really covering all the domain from asset management, change management, your backup, your network security. You go through all the controls, and then at the end, we're able to provide you with reports covering your recommendations, how to improve some of aspects that you need to improve within your security control of your infrastructure. So again, this service also is for free. Soon we're going to release a tool. We already have one that is generic, as we call it, fit for cybersecurity, but we're going to release soon one for the manufacturing sector, considering the SCADA systems, and then going through a series of questions that will be self-assessment based. And at the end, you have a report automatically generated that you can, with recommendations. And then once you have the report, we can come in and have a discussion to check together the report and also provide way of improve. We can also connect to the ecosystem if you are looking for service providers that can help you because you don't have the expertise in-house. We can also support, we can also connect you to the ecosystem so that you can get the support needed to really improve the maturity of your infrastructure, your cybersecurity maturity. So the in-depth assessment, we have a tool today is at our disposal within at the L-DIH website. I'll share the link with you shortly. And this, you do direct assessment. You just need to incorporate. I'll go to the next slide. Enter your, we call it testing platform. Today we provide a solution where you can test your network infrastructure, your infrastructure. You can either test also your web applications to see if it's secure. And then once you just need to enter your IP address or your domain. We run the passive scan and assessment, and then we provide with where you need to improve and how you need to improve it. And then again, if you need help to do this improvement, you can also contact us, and then we can support you. One good thing about our testing platform that is at your disposal for free as well is the OT firmware assessment that the next speaker is going to talk about, and use cases. Is a tool that we have within the testing platform where you can upload IoT firmware, and then you submit your firmware. We run the assessment of the firmware, and then we provide you with a report with if there's any vulnerabilities, how to improve them, and so on. Again, if you get a report you don't understand and you would like to contact us for support, we can also support you eventually on that. Okay. So I will share, I'll end with some basic cybersecurity hygiene. Think of doing your backup, no matter it's IT and OT, you need to be prepared. You don't know when ransomware type of attack will hit. One service will not be available. You need to continuously run a backup to ensure that you can ensure business continuity in case of incidents. Okay, your network, either OT and IT, you need to ensure that you segregate well, that you have already segregation between your infrastructure, so that if part of your network is affected, it's not automatically affecting the whole network. Okay. Data privacy, we need to consider today. Ransomware can, the impact that we've seen within for some manufacturing companies, they just have data breach that affect the misreporting to the regulator. They have a breach fine, especially for SMEs, and that's it. They are out of business. They are not able to recover. So ensure that you know that the type of data you are collected and the security measure that you put in place to secure them. Legacy system, that's the big challenge for the manufacturing sector. Some of the devices are very expensive. You bought them for years, they are still working. Now you improve the network of your manufacturing systems, and then you move to digitalizations, so security by design. Though you have a legacy system, try to think of a layer that you can put on top to ensure security. Is there a firewall we put, intrusion detections, or network monitoring, traffic monitoring to understand if there's malfunction in the network. So this, I think we will share the slides, and we as a service, we are available. We should really, if you have any questions or you would like to do our service, really try to connect to us, contact us, and we will be available to help you. Thank you very much. And I think we have questions at the end. I'll be happy to answer any questions. Thank you very much.
Indeed, Dominic. Indeed, there is a Q&A session at the end, and I think there will be some question for you. Thanks very much for your intervention. Now let's listen to Florian Lukowski, an experienced ethical hacker who has responsibly disclosed numerous zero-day vulnerabilities and conducted hundreds of pen tests. And now Florian is the CTO of OneKey. He leads the top European product cybersecurity and compliance platform, helping organizations automate security and compliance for connected devices. Florian, the floor is yours.
Thank you for the kind introduction, and very warm welcome to everyone. So today I will be giving a quick some quick insights on effective vulnerability management for connective devices. So as Dominic shared already, as part of the NC3 testing platform, you also have the opportunity to use the OneKey platform to test firmware of connected devices. Today, I don't want to focus on our technology, but I want to look at the problem at a larger scale. So let's dive into it. And if there's any questions, feel free to ask them. Yeah, I mean, we've heard already some statistics in the beginning that cyber threats are becoming more and more, also targeting OT environments, also targeting connected devices. So we don't have to look too far back in news around cybersecurity incidents. There's tons of vulnerabilities being reported every day, for example, for firewalls, for various management systems that have central and critical functionality to an organization's network. This, of course, also applies to industrial control systems. So earlier this year, we had CISA, so the US Cybersecurity Agency, warning organizations about many vulnerabilities in ICS systems being actively exploited by adversaries, and urging organizations to upgrade those items to mitigate issues within those devices. I mean, those vulnerabilities, they are already difficult to handle. I mean, you have to have asset management in place. You have to monitor relevant sites. You have to identify which vulnerabilities may affect you, how are you affected with them. But that's only the tip of the iceberg. Because when you look into NIS2 in Article 21 of the cybersecurity risk management measures that need to be put into place, NIS2 also mentions that supply chain security needs to be in place, that direct suppliers need to be evaluated from a risk perspective. So you need to make risks transparent in that regard. So looking at vulnerabilities affecting the entire devices is step one, but it's only the first step to a risk management. Other questions could be if you're vulnerable to Heartbleed, for example, a critical OpenSSL vulnerability, which is haunting the internet since more than a decade now. Or if you're vulnerable to Log4j, a small logging component that introduced remote code execution vulnerabilities into many different applications where this component was used for logging purposes. And of course, earlier this year, a core component of the Linux system was almost backdoored. And also here, we may have questions to see if we as an organization or any of the devices that we are running is affected by such components or by such vulnerabilities affecting these dependencies. So essentially what we need to look for is to make sure that we, from the entire foundation that our organization and our organization's infrastructure is built upon, that we don't miss any components and that we have visibility into everything so that we can consider it accordingly from a risk perspective. But how do we actually do that? So we typically, when we install a device in our network, we know that it may be a Siemens device or it's an ABB device. We may know the firmware version that is running on it, but this alone is not sufficient for extensive supply chain risk management. So we also need to know, like, what are the dependencies, what is this device relying on. So we actually need to also consider the software bill of materials, so basically the list of ingredients that go into the device, so that we are aware of what dependencies, what open source components are running on our network. So we want to know what are the suppliers, the component names, versions, etc. So that we can also include this into our vulnerability management and into our risk management. So question is, how do we get this software bill of material? The easiest is, of course, to ask the supplier. So many, especially more mature vendors, they will supply manifest files or SBOM files, both from a licensing perspective, but also from a security perspective. So that's information that you can use. You can, of course, also go further, and this is also something that we offer. So if you just received the firmware as a black box, that you actually have the possibility to tap into package managers there to look into the compiled binaries to see what is really inside the application. So there's also a control to validate whatever your manufacturer, your supplier is providing to you. So once you have this information, you basically have it transparent, like what is it you're really looking at, what are the risks, or what is the attack surface you have to observe and you have to monitor. So with this transparency into what is running on your network, the second step is now to tap into vulnerability databases, to tap into vulnerability sources to identify threats that may affect you. And if we look at the trends over the past years from the CVE database alone, we see that there's an explosion of vulnerabilities being exploited. So don't let yourself be fooled by the dip in 2024. We are only halfway through 2024, so I expect this number at the end to be somewhere in the high 30,000s of vulnerabilities that will be reported in 2024. In 2023, we had almost 30,000 different vulnerabilities being reported. So that's almost 100 vulnerabilities per day. So that's a lot to go through. That's a lot of data to consider from a vulnerability management perspective. So this is where it's actually key to prioritize vulnerabilities, to focus on the vulnerabilities that are really affecting you. So the first filter you can basically apply to this flood of vulnerabilities is to filter only for the vulnerabilities that apply to software versions that run on your system, so that affect the components that affect also the versions of the components that you're running. So this will reduce the number of vulnerabilities already. Secondly, to run an effective vulnerability management system, you will also want to take into consideration your environmental properties. So what is your threat model? How are those components exposed? How could adversaries, potential attackers interfere with those components? Do they even reach the components in order to exploit them? So this is another area where you can drill down on vulnerabilities. You can also check if those CVEs actually affect the given product. So if there's a match from a technology perspective as well, and you can also take into consideration threat intelligence, such as EPSS or CISA's known exploited vulnerabilities list, to see if those CVEs are actually being exploited. So if there's an active threat that vulnerabilities are in focus of adversaries to launch cyber attacks, to launch ransomware campaigns, etc. And those vulnerabilities intersecting, like the threat model affecting the product being exploited. So those are the vulnerabilities that we really want to focus on first. So those are the high value vulnerabilities that may pose a real risk on our environment. So these are the vulnerabilities that we want to spend our time on, that we want to focus on, that we want to spend our resources on in order to mitigate them and make sure that those cannot be used to infiltrate our systems, to exploit our systems. And let's take a look at one example. If we look at a CVE back from 2023, it's high-risk vulnerability. It allows for local privilege escalation affecting the Linux kernel. So if we dig further into it, we know that it's listed on CISA's known exploited vulnerabilities list. So it's actively being used within cyber attacks. We know that from a risk model, it has high impact on confidentiality, integrity, and availability from a CVSS score. It is a critical vulnerability allowing remote code execution. So from this perspective, it's a vulnerability worth considering. But if we dig deeper, if we take into consideration the configuration of the product, the way it is set up, we also know that this vulnerability is affecting the sound driver. So if we look into the firmware of the device, we can actually determine if the sound driver is even part of the device. And based on this automated impact assessment, can also determine if it's even relevant to look into this vulnerability, to further consider this vulnerability. Considering that sound drivers are usually not installed on connected devices or industrial control systems, this is probably something a vulnerability that we don't have to focus too much on because it's likely not affecting the system at all. So with this being said, recapping and putting it all together to build an effective vulnerability management, first of all, you need transparency. So you need to identify what are the third-party components, what are the devices made up of, have the SBOM. You need to collect vulnerabilities, tap into CVE databases, vendor bulletins, advisories, and then make sure that you filter as much as possible so that you remain relevant with the vulnerabilities that you're looking at. So make sure to perform risk assessment, triage vulnerabilities before, of course, moving into mitigation phase, applying patches, and putting this into a continuous process. So conclusion for today, SBOM, take the configuration of the device, of the environment into consideration, disregard irrelevant vulnerabilities so that you spend your resources wisely, and conduct impact assessments so that you can differentiate between relevant and irrelevant vulnerabilities, focusing only on the few that really matter. And with this, if there's any questions, feel free to ask them now. We will get back to them later in the Q&A towards the end of the session. And back to you, Nicolas.
Indeed, thank you for reminding people about the Q&A, Florian, and thank you also very much for your pitch. Now it's the turn of Sami, who will join us for his presentation. Sami is a cybersecurity expert with a decade of experience in network security and penetration testing. He considers himself as a cybersecurity noob. Perhaps he will explain you, but basically it's due to the rapid evolution of the sector. He likes to take an offensive approach to identifying vulnerabilities and reinforcing his customers' security with pragmatic solutions. Sami, we are listening to you. Sami, we can't hear you. And then you disappear. I hope you're not suffering a cyber attack. That would be a pity. Hello, Sami.
Hi, I'm back.
Yeah,
it was fluent since the beginning, so I wanted to add some spice to the webinar.
Ah, nice. Well,
okay, so thank you.
Just you have to re-upload your presentation. Then.
No.
Yeah.
You're kidding me.
That's the rule.
So there you go. Normally the presentation has been uploaded.
That's good.
Thank you. So sorry for the bit of beginning. Good morning to everyone. So I will quickly go the introduction because Nicola already did a great introduction. But my name is Sami, basically, and I have worked in cybersecurity in 10 years, both building security solutions as well as hacking into companies, which is the most funniest part. And today I'm leveraging both those approach with F3C and CyberNoob. But the topic of today, so first, why should you care about cybersecurity in the first place? Well, then first, if you have never faced a cyber attack, I would say that you're one of the lucky few, because based on statistics, or current statistics from the 2024 Waterfall Security Report, there has been a 300% increase of the number of reported cybersecurity incidents in OT specifically since 2020. So it's not the whole cybersecurity incident, it's only the reported one, so meaning only the one that has been caught, and also it's only for the OT industry. And basically, in 2023, there have been 75% of the OT organization that reported that they have experienced at least one cyber attack. So I wanted to ask you, using the poll feature of that webinar, to so that you can let us know if you already faced a cyber attack yourself. Normally, you should be able to answer by yes or no, and it's only for our own curiosity, let's say. So a few stories, real life stories from your peers of the OT industry. Well, there have been multiple reported and quite important cyber attacks in this industry since 2010 already. I wanted to highlight a few ones that can paint the different kind of cyber attack that you can find. So first, there is the critical infrastructure. With an example of the Ukraine power grid that has been knocked offline in both 2022 and 2016. So meaning that a cyber attack managed to shut down the entire power grid of some Ukraine part of the land. So it has a real, let's say, physical world impact based on a cyber attack. Another one that is quite, let's say, frightening is the poisoning attempt of the water treatment facility in Florida. And it was in 2021. So one hacker gained access to the device that was managing the amount of some kind of chemical product that needed to be added to the water. And if the attack was not caught right hand, then it means that the hacker could have poisoned the water of the water treatment facility. So it's really, again, a big safety issue. But it's not only for critical infrastructure, it's also relevant for the more, let's say, simple manufacturing industry. There is an example, for example, with Honda, the famous car and motorcycle manufacturer, that faced ransomware in 2020, and that ransomware alone forced the company to halt their operation at several production plants worldwide. So basically, cyber attacks for OT, they have a real impact, safety that could be compromised, or simply production disruption that would cause an economic threat to your manufacturing company. And my favorite stories that exist is the first one, the Stuxnet story. It's the story of how a state into the nuclear facility of Iran. And it's a really interesting story. I will not spoil or get into much detail because there is a documentary available on the internet, which is called 0 Days. And I really encourage you to go see that documentary because in my opinion, it's really interesting. So why is this new? Because cybersecurity threats are not new. The IT industry has faced this challenge for 10 or 20 years already now. And basically, it became a real problem for IT industry when everything started to be interconnected. And the thing is that OT is facing this evolution too now. This industry evolved from isolated, non-connected environments to nowadays highly interconnected, data-driven systems. So this is basically that new connect manufacturing industry, the cybersecurity threats that were not relevant for their industry before that. And in addition to that, there are some specific are the cybersecurity sector only. So first, the merging of OT and IT, we just discussed about that. It's the fact that now OT is managed via IT systems. So they already share the same kind of threats as the IT network, meaning so on. But they have also other specific challenges. So, for example, their longer technology life cycle. Most OT systems, they often have a life cycle of 20 years or 10 years, and it's difficult to update and secure their system compared to the IT world. Many OT devices, it's not uncommon to see OT devices deployed decades ago, well before the current cybersecurity standards were established. There is also an insecurity by design, let's say, because many OT systems were not designed with security in mind. The PLCs, they often use clear text or unauthenticated protocols, such as Modbus. And it means that gaining access to the network of the system equals getting administrative access to the device. So you can manipulate the device. Another specific challenge is the critical impact of blocking technology in the OT industry. I've seen this when introducing the example of cyber attacks, but it's the same with blocking technology. Halting the operation of an OT process can have a critical impact on productivity and also safety. So it's difficult. Blocking technologies such as firewalls or antivirus, they can block and have a negative impact on the production line that would cause, for example, the entire shutdown on that production line, or cause potential safety issues. And the last specific challenge I wanted to mention here is the large use of third parties, OEM providers. We have seen that the OT industry, they often rely on those kind of providers for maintenance and updates of their systems. Those providers, they usually require uncontrolled remote access to the systems. And that could also be a security risk for your own environment, because if the provider gets compromised, then you can get compromised too, which we call a supply chain attack in the cybersecurity industry. And well, the bad news of all that cybersecurity threats is that there is no simple solution. What we say in the industry is that there is no silver bullet. And I wish there were a solution that you could simply buy and be 100% safe from cyber attack. But unfortunately, this is something that simply does not exist. It's more of a cat and mouse game. So that is why in the IT industry, from many years now, we have developed comprehensive cybersecurity frameworks to guide you in your cybersecurity program. Frameworks such as the one on the right on that slide, the NIST cybersecurity framework, which is recognized globally. And they recently also published a guide to OT cybersecurity. Today, there are even directives from the European Union, such as NIS2, that is even forcing critical sectors to apply those kinds of cybersecurity frameworks or controls to. The thing that I want to say with that slide is that the way of improving your cybersecurity is unfortunately mandatory, but it's very comprehensive. It can be complicated, and it requires a lot of resources and a lot of transformation. But it is something that you need to invest resources into if you don't want to end up on that timeline of a real story example of the company getting hacked. I don't want to be too negative. I want to end up with something positive, and I want to give. So And also, I don't want to go into too much detail into these frameworks, because personally, I find them a bit boring, to be honest. And also, there are already a lot of resources available on the internet or even with local providers for those frameworks. Instead, I wanted to introduce a quick win solution. So again, it's not a silver bullet. It's just a quick win solution that can be implemented in parallel to those frameworks while you're working on your longer-term cybersecurity framework. Approach that we call deception technology. And basically the concept is quite simple. Is if the attacker gets into your network, you want to detect them as quickly as possible. And the approach is simply to deploy decoys into your OT networks, that the decoys that looks like real OT devices. But in reality, they're not real pumps or devices. They are just traps for the attackers. And the goal is to trick the attacker to interact with those decoys so that you know that you have been breached, that you have to respond to a cybersecurity incident. And the great part about that solution is that it generates very few false positives, because those decoys, they don't have any other purpose than being trapped. So if someone interacts with it, it means that there is something going on. And in reality, this solution is not only for OT, it works also very well in IT environments, and we have already a few very positive experience with that kind of solution. But there are existing solutions that are tailored to the OT, environment, that can already built in, let's say, simulate or emulate the kind of OT devices that you would have in your real network. Those kind of SCADA devices, and with all the names that you can see on that slide. And in my experience, this is something that really tricks the attacker. We have seen lots of penetration tests, engagement, ending up being detected thanks to those kind of technologies. But again, it's just something that you could deploy in parallel, but you don't want to rely only on that. It's not a silver bullet. It's something complementary. And that would be it for me today. So thank you for your time, and don't hesitate to ask questions or to get in touch with us directly in the future if you have interesting conversation to have. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Sami, for this comprehensive presentation. So it's time now for us to come back all together on scene in order to have a quick session, quick discussion, sorry. First of all, so unfortunately, no, still checking, but there is not yet, I mean, a question on the chat. But there is this poll that you proposed, Sami. Not too many participants. Oh yeah, 5 participants so far, and the yes is at 40% when you ask about people who has been already attacked, and the no is 60%. And how do you see that, guys? Because what we can hear frequently is that that's more than this, and perhaps also how many of these people have been perhaps not attacked, but at least infected, and perhaps will be attacked in the coming. So, is there one of you who want to comment this result? Oh, no is at 66 now, and yes, at 33. Surprising.
Yes. It's interesting, and as you mentioned, Nicolas, maybe they could have multiple, could be multiple reasons. Maybe also we are not as targeted in our local market, or we are better in defending, or it could be also that we are worse in detecting the cyber attacks. So I don't think that it means that we are, let's say, free from cyber attacks, but it's interesting to see that we do not, let's say, mirror the official stats from the worldwide report. Indeed.
Okay, thank you. And Florian, Dominique, do you have any comment on this result? And we want to challenge it with what you could see in your daily activities.
Based on the result we see, there is a normal distribution, and something that we said today is not if, is when. When you will be attacked. Today you are not yet, but when. That's why putting in place controls, educating your personnel on cyber risk, what to look out for when they receive suspicious emails. Getting the control and help people understand the risk that they're facing and the impact that they can have when they have these attacks is very important. So awareness, because as you said, human is the last defense line in security. You can put all the firewall, all the antivirus, all the controls in place, but if you've not educated your personnel to have good attitudes or good risk adverse, you always face attack. So education and awareness is key in the process.
Okay, interesting. And you, Florian, how do you integrate this, let's say, human factor at one key in the project you develop? Is there any comment that you provide to us?
I mean, one comment that I wanted to make regarding the distribution, one explanation that I would also have is that there's a certain bias among the participants here, because I mean, being in a cybersecurity event already indicates that there's a certain awareness, that there's a certain level of maturity. So this could also be a explanation that why the poll in this audience has a certain bias or certain tendency towards maybe an unexpected answer. In terms of human factor, I mean, from our perspective, we look at connected devices. We are very much in automation. So our goal is kind of to prevent human error from interfering with our results. So by automating, by establishing repeated processes to actually avoid any possibility for human mistake within the monitoring phase, simply by automating things. So this is our approach to it. We are not that focused on phishing solutions, for example, other threat actors that many organizations suffer.
Okay. Yeah, cybersecurity is two legs, human and technologies, and each leg is as its importance. Yeah, right. Any other comment? Just checking. Yeah, if no, we are not missing any question. Any other comment or idea on your side, guys, that you want to share with the community?
I would like to insist on the fact that there are a lot of services out there available at their disposals.
Okay.
We have at the House of Cybersecurity a lot of service. When you're facing attack, you can call our SEC that can support you in case you don't have the expertise in-house, that can support you in addressing attack and resolving incidents. So when you have this kind of incidents, you have service available within the ecosystem. In terms of awareness educations, we have a lot of materials. We do provide awareness training as well. So don't hesitate to contact us. And we are here for the ecosystem as we depend. Sorry?
No, sorry, Dominique. I'm putting you a bit of pressure to conclude. Sorry, I just wanted to finish. You.
Okay, thanks. So again, do not hesitate to contact us. We are here to serve the ecosystem. So we are really available, and we have tools that are open source. So feel free to use them. And if you to support the tools, they are open source, so you can also support with features missing for the ecosystem. You can also do that. Thank you.
And don't hesitate to come through the DIH. So for the manufacturers that are listening to us today, and perhaps, guys, and that's normal, no shame about that. Perhaps you don't know how to start. Come to the DIH, and we will put you in contact with Dominique, or even with some providers that could help you to enter the path, I would say, because that's a path. That's as digital transformation is a path. There is no clear destination, but you need definitely to be to take some action and to be realistic about these threats. So thank you very much to our speakers. And don't hesitate also the audience to come back to them directly through LinkedIn or through us if you want to take the discussion a bit further. And on my side, I will just take a few more seconds to talk about our next DIH events. So on the 4th of July, you'll have an awareness session on national funding and tax relief measures. It will take place for the second time. First time was at CTI, now it's at FANUC. So you are welcome, and you could register through our website. And there is, from our colleagues of the consortium, from the Competence Center, there is something about SCADA. You, Sami, you talked about SCADA, and that's when it comes to Industry 4.0, that's also an important topic. So I strongly encourage you to participate to this webinar. So thanks a lot, and again, don't hesitate to come back to us and to continue this very interesting discussion on this very interesting topic. So have a nice sunny weekend, I hope, and see you in July for the next episode. Bye.
Have a nice day and nice weekend.